In this video, we discuss Devin Haney's recent fight against Jojo Diaz and whether he can become the next Floyd Mayweather.
A lot of people are showing comparisons to Floyd Mayweather, especially since how young Devin Haney is. And people are calling him the next version of Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather. So what do you think about all those people making those comparisons?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Obviously, Devin's super young. It's hard to say because, at that point in Floyd's career, he was still knocking people out. He had a huge array of people that he was knocking out at that time. So it's interesting because Devin Haney isn't necessarily knocking these people out, but he's outpointing and he's beating these good technicians. Jojo Diaz is no slouch. He's a very tough competitor. He's been in there with guys like Tevin Farmer, Gary Russell, Allen Jr. These guys that are super tough. Obviously Fortuna, who he outpointed and outboxed. So yeah, I think Jojo didn't get the credit he deserved for that Devin Haney fight. But yeah, Devin Haney made it look pretty seamless, but he still has flaws. He's still pretty raw. He's not perfect in any means. There's a few things in that fight which could have caught someone's eye and been like, it's a bit suspicious.
Yeah, like we said, Devin has a ton of room to grow, but his skill set's already for where he's at, and the experience he has is pretty good, and he's able to outpoint a lot of these guys really well, and he has a beautiful jab and everything.
Yeah, for
so
sure.
he's an amazing fighter, and we'll see how he builds up his skill set. So that's why the fight versus Kambosos would be super interesting and an exciting matchup. So we have this guy who just beat Tio, which seemed like a monster at that division, and is versus Haney, who's up and comer, and this would this be his toughest fight?
Which one? Against Kambosos?
Kambosos, yeah.
For sure. I mean,
Yeah,
Kambosos probably doesn't have the threat of the power, even though he did drop Tio. I feel like that was more of a timed shot, and it wasn't really like a power shot. It was kind of like a flash knockdown. So I don't know if either of them really have the power to hurt each other. It'd probably go the distance, I'd say.
Yeah.
But it would definitely be a good fight, and probably Haney's toughest fight, especially from what we've seen Kambosos do to Teofimo Lopez.
It's interesting for Kambosos because he had such a good performance, but it's kind of hard to see him just the ways that he kind of matches up against these top guys at lightweight, since all of them have such a different skill set, and they're also raw, like we said. So it's just interesting to see how when the fights actually happen, it's gonna be interesting to see if Kambosos will be able to defend and just hold down the fort pretty much at lightweight.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be very interesting because Kambosos, it doesn't seem like he has the best style to keep that undisputed spot. I feel like someone might take it from him, but it might just be, me not seeing enough of Kambosos, me not seeing all of his fights. Of course, I only really saw him against Lopez, which, I mean, he did well, but obviously we saw flaws. We saw him get dropped later on in the fight. But, from what we saw, he was doing well, and he was outboxing Teofimo Lopez, which was nuts. I think Devin Haney, he's an amazing boxer. He has a great jab. He really flicks that out there, and he outpoints people with it. He kind of steals around in that, and that kind of reminds me more reminiscent of the Money Mayweather era rather than the Pretty Boy era, because at the end of Floyd Mayweather's career, he was kind of outpointing everyone. He wasn't necessarily hurting these guys like Oscar De La Hoya, the Manny Pacquiaos of the world, and he was outpointing them and winning by decisions. So that's what kind of Devin Haney reminds me of more than a Pretty Boy Floyd, who was a younger version of Floyd, who was really hurting guys and putting it on him.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened to Floyd. He kind of hurt his hands. Obviously, later on in his career, he had hand problems and hand injuries. So, he kind of played it safe and just became a very technical, very smart fighter. He already was, but,
just leveled
he was
up.
just outpointing those guys. Yeah, leveled up for sure.
Yeah, and he just became such a defensive master. And also, I feel like something that's a bit underrated on Haney is his defense. He has pretty good defense. He gets caught sometimes when he's a bit careless and he decides to come in the pocket and just go in for guys.
Yeah, and I find that interesting that he comes in, because you wouldn't expect him to.
Yeah.
He doesn't seem like he's the kind of fighter to come in on guys like example like Jorge Linares. When he got caught by Linares, he was hunting him down, and I was watching that It's very interesting to see Haney walk down these guys that are bigger punchers than him. You'd expect, obviously maybe not Jojo. Jojo probably wasn't a bigger puncher than him. Jojo, he was a 130 pounder, so it's hard to say he was a bigger puncher. But there were times where both of those guys were exchanging, and none of them were seemed to take too much damage in that fight. But it was a great fight. Haney did well. He showed his skills. He showed his skill set, and I think he proved a lot in that fight. I think he would do well against Kambosos. Probably win that fight in my opinion.
Yeah,
Don't get too heated in the comments with that one.
Yeah, I think it would be a really good fight. Probably also a competitive fight, but I think Haney might edge it. Yeah, I think Haney would edge it.
Yeah, it's definitely tough to say. I mean, I've only seen one fight of Kambosos, so it's kind of like, it's tough for me to call since I've seen multiple fights of Devin Haney and I've always seen one fight of Kambosos. So, yeah, it would definitely be a great competitive fight and very interesting. Obviously, Kambosos is undisputed right now. And if that fight happened in Australia, that would be huge. It'd be definitely...
That would be insane.
Yeah, that would be a big mega fight. And we got to make these fights happen, man. These undefeated guys, both of them. I mean, we just had Kambosos versus Teo, which was good. But at that time, we didn't even think Kambosos was all that. We thought Lopez was just going to go through the guy like it was nothing. But ended up, Kambosos is now the new top dog. But we need to see these guys fight. The Ryan Garcias, the Kambosos, the Haneys, Gervonta Davises.
Yeah, that's why it's also just so cool to see like a new star like that being born, because no one expected him to beat Teo. Pretty much no one, since Teo beat Loma and everything was going in for him. And then Kambosos just came and just stole the show, and now him just getting all this media and everything is doing great for his name and how he was at all the fights.
This clip is taken directly from the Punch Plan podcast. You can check the episode out right now on your screen, or you can go in the link in the description and stream it on Spotify. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great day.